Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Curtis, and today I'm going to do a review for Beauty in Black, Season 2, Episode 2. Before I get started with the review, I do want to point out something really quickly that I mentioned in the previous review. So I am recording it through my phone, and it's actually going through the Photo Booth app on my computer. And the reason why I'm recording this way is because the camera quality on my MacBook is absolute garbage. And so I was like, you know what, let me just record over here for better, video quality. And the reason why I am going to look over in this direction is because my notes are actually on my computer. So once again, if you see me looking over here, I'm looking at my notes. If you see me looking over here, I'm looking directly at the phone. The episode starts off with Kimmy, Rain, and Sylvia going into Horace's house. And of course, when it comes to Sylvia and Rain, they are super impressed. Kimmy, on the other hand, she's not really sure. And so Sylvia's like, you know what, is this really Mr. Horace's house? And James is like, no, this is actually your house. It belongs to you. It belongs to Rain. It belongs to Kimmy. And so he takes them on a tour to show them all of their rooms. And every single room that Sylvia sees, she's like, oh my God, is this real? Is this real? I can't believe it. I said, Sylvia, listen to me. It's real. I know you are appreciative and you are humble, but calm down. Just relax, please. And so they end up making it to Kimmy's room, and she has a really big closet. And Rain is like, she doesn't have enough clothes to fill that closet. And James was like, oh, don't worry about it. And he actually hands Kimmy a black card and says that she's going to go shopping so that way she can fill it out. Rain and Sylvia are still excited, but as I said a little bit earlier, Kimmy, she's not really sure. She's like, I'm not really sure if I can trust Horace or if I can trust James or if I can even trust this entire situation. And she says, you know what, I feel like this is being given to me a little too easily. And Rain is like, look, nothing in life is easy. And so Kimmy, she reflects on the situation. She's like, you know what, I guess this is better than, being at the club. And Rain is like, exactly. And then Rain said, and I thought this was funny because this is something that I would do. She was like, the good thing about it is you can always put some money to the side just in case things go left. And she was like, you know what? You were absolutely right. After this, we see Varney, and he looks like he just saw a ghost. Roy is like, what exactly is going on? And so he's trying to get out of it, like, I don't know what you're talking about. We're just having a general conversation. He's like, that doesn't sound like you were just having a general conversation to me. And then also he notices that Varney's shirt is open. So he's like, how can you say that you two are just having a casual conversation, but your shirt is pretty much off? Like, I can see your chest. Like, what's going on? And what I got out of this situation is the fact that Charles either needs to lock his doors a little bit better or he needs to get a security system, because why is everybody able to just come into his house? And speaking of Charles, he actually comes out of the room and he notices his brother. He's like, what are you doing here? And he actually asks him in a very stern voice, like, what are you doing here? Roy, he just smiles and then says, you know what, I'm going to leave. And then Varney, he's like, oh my God, I cannot believe he saw this. And so as he is like thinking and reflecting on the situation, he's like, Charles, did you set me up? And Charles is like, what are you talking about? He's like, did you set me up? Like, did you know that he was coming? He was like, no. He was like, did you text him? Did you call him? Did you let him know that I was here? Did you tell him to come by for something? And he's like, no, I did not do anything. And he said, you know what, let me find out that you did something. And Charles was like, you going to do what? What are you going to do? And he ends up walking away. And I'll be honest with you all, I think he may have slipped up and probably asked him to come over. I'm not really sure, but it does appear to be a little suspicious, especially when you consider the fact that he said that he never comes over to his house. Varney goes to the garage and he notices that one of his tires is flat. Roy appears from behind the car and he tells him that he actually planned to go to his father to tell him everything that happened, but he decided to go against it. And I was just like, I don't think that conversation with your father would have went the way that you thought it would. I'm just saying. Roy tells Varney that he's going to use the situation as leverage. He goes on to say that Varney better make sure that he is protected and that he gets his shares because he doesn't have time for this shit. And then there is much more to the scene, but I'm going to be honest with you all. I tuned it out once he starts asking him to say that he is his bitch and he starts putting his hands on him. That was just too much for me. Roy ends up going home and he actually runs into Mallory. And he says, Mallory, you would never guess what happened. And she's like, what is it? What happened? He was like, I saw Charles and Varney fucking. And she's like, I don't believe you. This is bullshit. He's like, it's true. She's like, you are such a fucking liar. Anyways, I'm about to go. Like, I'm about to get in my car and drive somewhere. And he's like, are you sure that you want to do that? Do you remember what happened the last time you drove your car somewhere? She rushes up to him and it appears as if she's getting ready to slap him, but she's able to get herself together. And she's like, you know what? Whatever. I don't have time for this. I'm out. And then he's like, listen, I'm telling you, Varney and Charles are fucking. And she's like, okay, and I don't give a fuck. She goes out into the garage and she's actually greeted by a person named Andy who says that I am going to be your driver for the day. And she's like, no, I'm going to drive myself. And he's like, well, you know what, let me drive you. She's like, no, I want to drive myself. Thank you. And so Andy's like, you know what? Cool, fine. And he gets inside of his SUV and he calls Jules and he's like, hey, I try to give her a ride. She says that she doesn't want to get in the car with me. So Jules is like, you know what? Just follow her. In the next scene, Officer Traxton reaches out to Alex to let him know that Angel was arrested for stealing the car. Jules ended up calling him and asked him, did Horace make him Kimmy's driver? He's like, yeah, he did. And he's like, well, why did he do that? He's like, I'm not sure. And he says, you know what? I need you to keep an eye on her and to let me know everything that happens with her. And he's like, okay, cool. And so as he is hanging up the phone, Kimmy actually walks up and is like, that call was quite intense. And he's like, yeah, I was having a conversation with Jules. And she's like, well, what was the conversation about? And he says that he, along with everybody, just pretty much wants to know what's going on, like, why is this happening? And she's just like, shit, I don't even know what's going on. Alex looks at Kimmy and is like, look, I know you don't trust me. Hell, I don't trust you or Jules. But regardless if we trust each other, we have to work together to get everything done. And she's just like, okay, fine, whatever. Just take me to go shopping. After this, we see Harold. He comes into Horace's hospital room, and Horace is pissed. He's like, look, I know that you and my brother have been laundering money through the club on behalf of Lakeland. And he hands him his phone and is like, look, I need you to reach out to Lakeland so we can talk. And so Harold, he does reach out to Lakeland, and Mr. Lakeland, he is not in the mood. He's like, I am in Paris. Like, what do you all want? And so Horace gets on the phone and he's like, look, I know what you have been doing when it comes to Harold and my brother. You have them laundering money through my club. Like, I don't like that. And then he goes on to say, when it comes to the car situation, because remember, it involves his father-in-law. He's like, when it comes to that situation, we need to make that go away because it involves somebody that I love. And he's like, I mean, I'm cool with making it go away, only if you can give me somebody in return, because my wife, because that, of course, is his wife's father, she's not going to let this shit slide. And he says, you know what, I'll see what I can do, and then he hangs up. It's at this time that Harold tells Horace, hey, I'm not sure if you noticed, but they actually arrested somebody for stealing that car. We can give that person to Daniel. And Horace is like, yeah, we should do that. So do what you need to do to get that person released, so that way we can give that person to Daniel. And I was just like, You don't even know that that person is Angel. Back with Mallory, she goes to this nasty, janky-ass motel where you can tell that prostitution is the real business. She actually goes there to be Felicia. And then Andy, remember Jules said you need to follow her. He is looking on from afar. And so Mallory, she goes into the room and she's looking around in disgust. She's like, oh my God. You can tell that there are probably bed bugs there. There are probably like old condoms there. There's probably cum stains all over the sheets. Like, she's just like, oh my God, this is fucking disgusting. And then Felicia's like, listen, run me my money and I'll give you the information about Kimmy. And so Mallory does give her the money. She's like, spill the tea. Felicia tells her that she actually saw Kimmy at the club the other day and that she was instructed by Jules to beat her up. And so Mallory is like, well, how do you know Jules? And she's like, oh, Jules is my pimp. And Mallory was like, oh. She's like, you didn't know that? She's like, yeah, I knew that. And so Felicia's like, anyways, the ladies at the club, they work for Jules, and they also work for a judge because the judge was able to get them off on a couple of cases. And I was just like, okay. I mean, people give it up to cops to get out of tickets, so I'm not really surprised to hear that people give it up to get out of jail sentences, so it makes sense to me. Mallory asks her, is this what happened with Kimmy and Sylvia? And she says yes. And then she tries to get information about Angel, and she's like, hold on, you were asking for a whole lot for $3,000. And y'all, Mallory, she may be my favorite. She says, do you know how bad your box has to get beat up for $3,000? Talk, bitch. And I said, oh my. Felicia tells her that Angel actually attempted to hide Sylvia. Jules ended up finding out, and it looked as if it was going to be over for Jules, but then this older man just came in out of nowhere and stopped it from escalating too far, and the guys actually ended up running out. And then she's like, I don't even know who the man is, to be honest. And so Mallory actually pulls her phone out and she's like, is this him? She has a picture of Horace. And she's like, yep, that's him. And so Mallory's like, okay, cool. And then she walks out of the room. As she is walking out, she notices the SUV that Andy was driving. So she ends up walking over and she's like, roll down the window. And she's like, hand me the phone. Because remember, he's actually having a conversation with Jules, trying to relay what's going on at the motel. And so she's like, look, we need to talk. And he's trying to make up all of these excuses. And she's like, no. We need to meet at the office and we need to talk right now. And after this, there's a quick scene where Horace calls Kimmy, basically saying, look, I took care of the car situation, and of course she is appreciative of it. And speaking of the car situation, we actually see Angel in jail. Jules comes in and he tells him to sit the fuck down so they can talk. And Angel's just like, why am I here? And he tells him that he is there because he stole a car from somebody that's, really bad. And he says, I did not steal a car. I just walked past the car and I saw somebody in there. I did not steal it. And Jules is like, okay, well, if you did not steal it, who did? And he was like, I don't know. And so he starts asking Jules more questions, and he's like, you know what? I'm done talking to you. Give me a lawyer. And Jules is like, a lawyer? He was like, yes, this is America, right? I am allowed to have a lawyer present, correct? And Jules is like, I mean, but are you an American citizen? And Angel, he doesn't say anything. He's like, I don't believe you are an American citizen. Like, I can get you deported and sent back to the DR. And Jules is like, whatever, just give me my lawyer. Jules realizes that, trying to play nice isn't going to work. So he actually pulls his phone out and he shows the picture of Yolanda to Angel. And this actually throws Angel off. He says, you know what, if you do not give me information about Kimmy and Horace, me and Officer Traction, we're going to go visit Yolanda. We're also going to go visit your son. And we're pretty much going to take care of them, if you know what I mean. And it appeared as if he was getting ready to flip, but he's like, you know what? I don't care. I just want to make a phone call and I want my lawyer. Jules is like, wow, so kids don't mean anything to you? And then Angel's like, well, did they mean anything to you? And then he brings up his daughter. He was like, her name is Tiffany, right? She's 10 years old. And you can tell this actually throws Jules off. Because he's like, I know this man is not making threats towards my daughter. And he's like, listen, I used to be scared of you, but now I'm not because guess what? I'm the one with the power. So Jules was like, Officer Traction. And so he actually comes into the room and then he's like, you know what? I think it may be time that you take that ride and make sure you send me a video. And Angel was like, wait a minute. Because remember, he was acting real tough like he had all the power. And he's like, hold on, wait a minute. He starts to panic. And he's like, no, 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 no. What you need to do, take that ride and make sure you send a video since this man want to act so tough. And he's like, listen, I can tell you whatever you want. He's like, no, it's too late. You should have never threatened my daughter. In the next scene, Kimmy and Rain, they go to the bank to find out how much money is in Kimmy's account. And y'all, Kimmy has $1.5 million in her checking account and $1.7 million in her savings account. And she asked the lady at the bank, you know what, when it comes to the account, is it just under my name? Is it under both of our names? Like, how does it work? And she's like, well, technically speaking, it's only under your name. And so Kimmy is like, okay, well, I want you to open up 2 accounts. I want you to open an account for my sister. I want you to open an account for Rain. And I want you to put $500,000 in each of those accounts. And I actually thought that was quite noble of her. The lady that was helping her, along with Rain, they end up leaving the room. And then Alex comes in and he's like, look, I have something I need to tell you, but you have to promise me that you won't tell anybody that I told you. And she's like, just tell me what it is. And he was like, Angel was arrested because they believe that he was the one who stole the car. Kimmy ends up calling Horace and like, Horace, they arrested Angel because they believe that he was the one who stole the car. And so he's like, oh shit. And she's like, why? What's going on? He was like, I actually just authorized a hit on Angel. I didn't know that it was him. And she's like, what? And speaking of Angel, he is released, which we already knew that was going to happen based on the conversation that Horace had with Harold. And so Angel, he is walking down the street and then a black car pulls up and starts shooting. And I do think it is very important to note that there was a man who actually walked right in front of Angel just as the person started shooting and actually lands on top of him. And so one of the guys actually gets out of the car. He takes a picture of everything that happened, showing what appears to be a dead Angel, gets into the car, and then speeds off. And that is how the episode ends. I do want to thank you all for watching. So once again, when it comes to the camera situation, I'm recording from my phone because the camera quality on my computer sucks. But it's weird because I do have a camera on here. So it's like, in my mind, I feel like I'm supposed to be looking directly at this camera instead of looking here. So sometimes I will catch myself, just looking over here too long. And I do apologize about that. But if you all could, please like, comment, share, subscribe. That would be great. Hope you all have a great rest of your day.